Frank had a question about presentation tips.
Yeah. Given that the work is done and the idea is great, do you have any presentation tips to ensure or increase the chances for your clients to buy into the work?
Yeah, it's so funny. We actually have a similar question in our hat that we drafted. It's funny, we talk a lot as creatives about the work and like getting the work ready for the presentation itself. But what I love about your question is a lot of times we don't take a step back to talk about how are we going to sell this in? How are we bringing this idea to the client? How are we packaging this up? And it's so important because it's not a one size fits all, right? A lot of times we'll go in with a key visual and a core idea description, or maybe, a rough kind of script or storyboard. But just earlier this spring, I had a leadership offsite for my team, and we spoke a lot about this, and we were looking at a lot of different pieces of work and almost like reverse engineering what the sell was and how different it would have to be to get certain pieces of work through. So for example, I don't know if you guys are familiar with this piece called Save Ralph. It's for I think International Humane Society, and it's an animated rabbit who's a test rabbit, and it's basically a PSA for why animals shouldn't be tested on. It's all CGI, it's all animated. There's a bit of humor and levity to it. And the reason why we spoke about that is because I said, could you imagine walking into the client meeting with just a plain storyboard of this and saying, yeah, we're going to do a cartoon, a 3D cartoon, CGI cartoon that has a lot of humor, where we personify your lab animals and have them tell their horrific experience. Like that would just fall flat. So how do you package that up? How do you get, I think the question has to be, how do you get in the mind of your client that allows them to connect with the vision that we see, right? As creatives, I think a lot of times, even if it's not our idea, we can look at something in its infancy and see the potential of where it can go. A lot of times our clients can't do that. So how do you give them almost a lived sense of what the final product is going to be? And it's going to be different for different projects. An interactive project is going to be different than a film-based project, different than a print ad, etc. So I think really thinking about how you package it up to give them a flavor of where it'll go.